Hi guys, Brain here, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the developer update that came out yesterday, the one that's going to be talking about a lot of massive gameplay changes that are happening to the normal gameplay cycle of Dead by Daylight if these changes go through, which this isn't if. They said they are simply testing these things this upcoming Tuesday, not that these are confirmed. If these things come to Dead by Daylight, it's going to massively change the way that we play the game, and some of it's a doozy, but some of it seems pretty cool at the same time. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing, and probably the biggest thing that's going to be coming out of this update, is the last standing mechanic. And it's the thing that they were talking about in the 6-year anniversary, where they were talking about the changes of implementing Moris into the normal gameplay cycle, since they do not see them enough. They would like to see Moris happen more in their gameplay cycle. So they're actually adding it as a base kit thing that happens in the game. Now, there's a little bit of a weirdness to this. So you are going to be able to Mori the last survivor after the other 3 survivors are dead, dying, hooked, or have escaped. Now, the weird part of this that kind of makes it complicated is this isn't as simple as just like, oh, well, okay, you Mori the last person. It's not just like a Cypress. It's kind of like a sudden death mode that's being added to Dead by Daylight. Apparently, if you're the last survivor and you're running around with the killer, both you and the killer get a wider field of view. So essentially, you get Shadowborn Shadowborn just happens, which is interesting because a lot of people don't use Shadowborn because it makes them nauseous. Like a lot of people don't use Shadowborn because it is just kind of like a quality of life perk. And if you get, people infamously get addicted to it because they like that quality of life. A lot of people don't end up using Shadowborn because it makes them nauseous. It makes them motion sick. See, I think the opposite. I think when I'm in like a high movement character like Nurse or Blight, sometimes Shadowborn helps me stay unnauseous. It helps me not get sick because I do get motion sick. But some people have the opposite effect where any like super stretched field of view does make them a little motion sick. So making this a base kit thing means that anybody who is one of those people that Shadowborn makes them motion sick will have no way to avoid this if they end up being the last person, which obviously is kind of a problem. And as we've seen with the colorblindness situation, DBD has not been most aware of accessibility issues and not been the best at catering to them. So this kind of makes me worried. Specifically for those people that have that motion sickness problem, that you will essentially be being forced into motion sickness just by happening to have survived. So I hope they don't go through with that. And there's a lot more that I hope they don't go through with, but there's good stuff to do. I do like that when the last survivor is down, you will be able to just straight up Mori them. And it apparently like teleports you evidently to a clear spot of the map. So you're not going to have those weird situations where like the Mori's like obscured by a wall or you can't see because of a patch of grass. Like apparently the Moris will be like staged, so to speak. So that way you can actually like see them and enjoy them instead of just having it be like potentially blocked. So there is also that aspect that I do like a lot. Now, the hope is not lost mechanic is the one that most people are probably going to be upset with and probably kind of be the most fearful with, and with good regard. So essentially slugging is being directly tackled. Slugging is being seen as like a bad thing by the devs, and they're going to directly tackle it. And Unbreakable is no longer a thing. It's being transferred into kind of like a tenacity effect where it just speeds it up. And Unbreakable is in a sense becoming base kit. After being left on the ground for 45 seconds, survivors will just be able to pick themselves up no matter what. It is in a sense just base kit after 45 seconds. Yep. One of the strongest perks in the game, at least on the survivor side of things, is just going to be base kit for literally everybody. And I'm slightly getting ahead of myself because we're talking about the perk updates later that cover a lot of this stuff, but like I said, tenacity, boon exponential, no mither, unbreakable, all these things are not going to be able to like actually pull yourself off the floor yet, or pull yourself off the floor anymore, but they will have an effect to help speed up that effect. So realistically, that 45 seconds is not going to be 45 seconds if people are running these perks, and ergo making it to where you're going to be getting off the ground pretty quickly. Now, I don't like this, like, literally at all. I really don't enjoy this change because like I was hoping for a bleed out timer, because getting 4-man slugged is kind of boring. Like it just is. Like if you're playing Survivor and the killer slugs and goes for the next person and then slugs them and goes for the next person, it can be a pretty boring experience. And I feel like after like they said here, like a 45-second timer, being able to just like click the button and like surrender and bleed out early would be smart. That way, if you want to move on to your next game, you want to go to the next game, you don't want to spend the game alt-tabbed out of DVD watching a YouTube video while you wait for the killer to play the game, you can just do that. I think that would have been fine, but having them just be able to just get up This is going to get abused by Swifts. It will. It just will. This will be abused by teams. They will run a lot of perks to help pick each other up, run a lot of perks that help pick themselves up, and make that 45-second timer basically not a thing. They will make it really, really short, and that will cause a lot of issues. And essentially, it's going to kind of like, not necessarily kill the art of slugging, but make it like barely existent. And I've never been one of those people that like detest slugging. Like I said, there's those small instances when you're facing a killer and they slug you, and then they like just run around and chase the person and can't down them, and then they lose you and you're just on the floor for like a minute. That's boring. Like that happens. But like by and large, compared to most like tunneling or camping or stuff, I feel like slugging is way more healthy than either of those. Slugging is literally giving somebody a chance to get back into the game, and I feel like that can be tremendously healthy. I think that's a way better alternative than being camped or tunneled. That is way more fun and buys you a lot more chances. And it's the killer essentially like exerting a lot of intense pressure, but not really denying the ability for somebody to play the game, but more just pausing it for someone else. So I've never seen slugging as inherently bad. So to have this gameplay tactic essentially like gutted by this change and potentially abused later on is kind of interesting to me. Like I said, I don't really agree with it. I hope they make some adjustments to this. I think a good adjustment to this would be to make it to where you can only unbreakable if, with the same parameters that we were putting up here with the last standing, is if like, say if there's like 2 people, right? Say there's 2 people in the match that are dead, dying, or hooked. Then maybe this kicks in, right? Then maybe we do this. Maybe that kicks in now after, we've had, the killer is like in a very like already like intense spot, and you've just been left on the floor for a long time. Maybe then that would make sense. Maybe that would be a little bit more balanced. But in this current state, that scares me. That scares me. Not gonna lie, that scares me. So I already kind of briefly covered the perk updates that are gonna come through with this. Like I said, the like Unbreakable and Soul Guard and stuff are going to like change to be recovery instead of just, having you just be able to pick yourself up, or just have their pickup stuff removed entirely. But also because there's plenty of other ways to Mori characters in the game outside of an actual Mori. They're going to tackle some of them, not all of them, but some of them, mainly being Rancor and Devour, which are having their insta-Mori effects being removed. Devour instead insta-kill somebody if you hook them, so no matter what hook state they're on, if you have 5 stacks and you hook them, they're gone. So you have to hook them now to kill them. You don't get to Mori them anymore. And like Rancor just doesn't have its effect anymore. Rancor just doesn't get to Mori people. Doesn't get to Mori the Obsession. Not a thing anymore. So, interesting. Another positive is that if you bring Moris now, it's a blood point gain for the kills that you make and ending in a finishing Mori. So it's kind of like if you want to go for Moris, if you want to try to like really get the finishing Mori, if you want to play to the new mechanic, you can bring the Moris that you used to have and get even more blood points. So you can kind of like, bring that and increase your blood point amount, which is nice. And I do want to say this again. I said this at the beginning of this video, but I'm saying this again. None of this is going live in the mid chapter. None of this is going live. They said they just wanted to test this stuff because a lot of these are really intense, very big gameplay changes. So they actually want to sit on it for a while and make sure it works right. So while we will be able to test the stuff in the PTP coming up this Tuesday, we will not be able to actually play this coming when the mid chapter actually physically drops. So this is not coming in its concrete form as it is now. It is going to likely go through a lot of changes before we see it, and we're not even going to see it probably for a long time. So keep that in mind as well. Yeah, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad with this one. This one's probably the most dramatic developer update that I've had to cover. And there's a lot of things that I'm happy about, but there's a lot of things I'm also very scared about. What are you scared about, or what are you happy about coming from this developer update? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. And if I don't see you tomorrow, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.